Hi, I'm Fami Redwood from radio.com, and I'm chatting with Nupol Kiazolu, an activist and organizer for a radio.com check-in to celebrate Black History Month. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What does Black History Month mean to you?
Well, first and foremost, Black history is every day. Black history is American history. Black History Month is a time to celebrate the achievements of Black people, but we should be celebrating Black people every day because we've played a pivotal role in the progression of this country. And this country was built on the backs of my people for free. So, like I said, Black history is American history and Black history is every day, but we just extra Black this month.
I love that. When I say that you are an activist and organizer, you have been doing it since you were 12 years old. You're 20 now, but you've been doing this since 12. How did you even become an activist?
Oh, wow. So I feel so much older than I actually am because this movement definitely ages you. But I got into activism because of the tragic murder of Trayvon Martin. I was 12 years old and in sixth grade at the time of his death, and in the South and at a predominantly white middle school. So racial tensions were especially high throughout that time. And Trayvon Martin's murder really forced me to come face to face at an early age of who this country actually is and how it views me as a young Black woman in America. When Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman and I found out about it, my immediate emotions were anger and confusion. And at the time, I couldn't fully articulate how I felt, but I knew that I was angry and I had to do something. So I came up with this idea to hold a silent protest. I went home, I had a gray hoodie. I taped this message to my back stating, "Do I look suspicious?" And I had Skittles and iced tea in my hand the following day when I went to school with everything on to represent what Trayvon Martin had in his hand at the time of his death. It did cause a lot of tension. It caused a lot of uproar. Teachers and staff felt like I was being too political, but nonetheless, I persisted. I didn't care what anyone had to say. I knew what I was doing was right. Again, the next day, I go right back to school, same thing, hoodie on, Skittles and iced tea. And I ended up getting written up by my social studies teacher. And my only ally at the time was my math teacher, who's a Black woman. And when I got written up for suspension, before I went to the principal's office, I went to her. I was like, "Yo, Ms. Gibbs, this is what it is. I'm about to get suspended." And this lady literally risked her career by marching down to the principal's office with me in solidarity with her hoodie on. And we debated back and forth with the principal. And instead of suspending me, he sent me home to do my research and have my case ready for him the following morning. So that's exactly what I did. I looked up my rights as a middle school student in Georgia. I looked up my First Amendment rights. And then I came across the Supreme Court case, Tinker versus Des Moines, which is a Supreme Court case that established the right for students to peacefully organize within school grounds, in short. So that was the focal point of my argument the following morning. And once again, my math teacher was right there with me with her hoodie on in solidarity. And I ended up winning the case. And my principal, when I brought up Tinker versus Des Moines, he was like, "How the heck do you know about that at 12 years old?" And I'm like, "You told me to do my research." So that's exactly what I did.
Right.
So by the time we got out of his office, it was lunchtime. My teacher and we went there to get something to eat. And when we walked in the cafeteria, literally every student in there had their hoodies on with the same exact message taped to their back. And my teacher and I just stood there and cried. And it was especially shocking to me because I grew up as someone that was extremely bullied because I was always someone that stuck out like a sore thumb amongst my peers. I was always different. So I didn't think that I would have an impact on anyone else or anyone was even paying attention for that matter. But that just taught me that, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from or who you are, you can effectuate change and your voice is powerful. And that's what catapulted me into activism at 12.
Oh, I love that. So at 12, when you saw everything that happened with Trayvon Martin, was that the first time that you sort of realized racism was a thing or realized that Black people are not always treated equally? Or did you realize this even earlier than 12?
Yeah, I knew this early on. I remember being a kindergartner and MLK Day parade. I remember ABC News interviewed me and I was able to recite like the whole "I have a dream" speech, like everything that I was taught in class. And they was like, wow. "Oh, most adults don't even know that." So like I knew about what racism was, but it really hit me like right in the face. And I was able to start really contextualizing what that actually looks like and what it means for me as a young Black person in this country. So yeah.
You used to be the president of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Yeah, so Black Lives Matter is a global movement that is for Black liberation. Black Lives Matter, it doesn't reside, this movement and the saying Black Lives Matter is a movement, and it doesn't reside within a title or an organization or anything like that. This movement, Black Lives Matter, is within us. So that's what it means to me, like liberation and equity, not just equality, not just being able to sit next to a white person, but having spaces and these places where we were not originally even supposed to be at because of the way this system was designed. And not just having a seat at the table, but being able to build our own tables and bring chairs along with us. So, that's what it means to me. And it's definitely been inspiring to see this many people show up for the movement and for Black lives and for Black liberation in this new uprising.
In your work of getting people to reevaluate what racism looks like, does it ever get exhausting, especially after 2020? I know you're in Minneapolis, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, a woman who looks just like you and I. Does it just get tiring doing this heavy lifting mentally?
Yeah, this work is absolutely taxing. A lot of people don't talk about the trauma that Black organizers face on the front lines every single day in this work that we do. But, I don't regret anything I've done. I don't regret coming into this space, but there's also power in recognizing my trauma and coming face to face with that and sharing it with others so they know that it's okay. It doesn't make you weak to cry. It doesn't make you weak to share your trauma or be vulnerable. It actually makes you stronger. So yeah, it definitely gets taxing, like, educating people on what racism is every single time. And I also tell people, especially white folks, to hold themselves accountable in terms of educating themselves on what racism is, what it looks like, and how you benefit from it. And Black and brown folks bear the brunt of what you benefit from. And I tell people, like, Black people ain't here to be your full-time teacher, right? Google is very much free. So right. Y'all can utilize all the resources that we have in the age of technology to educate yourself. You cannot rely on Black people to be teaching you full-time because we have our own lives. So, right. Yeah.
Black women, including queer femmes, have been leading this fight for equality for years. When you think about Shirley Chisholm, Marsha P. Johnson, all of these legendary people, how does it feel knowing that you're walking in their footsteps?
Gosh, like Marsha P. Johnson, I absolutely adore her. She has been someone I've looked up to since I was a little kid, because I remember I learned about her a long time ago. So just to stand on the shoulders of these giants that really paved the way for young Black women like myself is absolutely inspiring. I'm proud to come from a legacy of warriors and fighters, and it's just absolutely inspiring. And one thing that makes me happy is that this movement, with Gen Z being the frontliners of the new uprising with Black Lives Matter, we're a generation of change. We're a generation that's dedicated to being more inclusive. And we have a long way to go, but just to be clear, like, Black women absolutely, and Black trans folks and Black queer folks need to be protected in these spaces. And a lot of times in the spaces you would expect us to be protected in, we're not. So we have a long way to go in terms of protecting and really showing up for Black and brown women and queer folks. But we've made strides, and it's much more inclusive than back in the day where it was just a man leading the civil rights movement, and Black women and Black queer folks and trans folks are doing the work on the ground, on the front lines, but we're not receiving as much credit as their counterparts. So we're definitely making strides.
Are you hopeful?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if I wasn't optimistic, then I wouldn't be doing the work that I do today. Like, my optimism keeps me going every single day. I do have faith that we are going to make it to the promised land, as MLK would say. Like, I do have faith that we are going to be a better country in all seriousness. I definitely have faith in my generation. Like I said, we are a generation of fighters. Gen Z is resilient, and we are really making waves in terms of this fight for equity for all people. So when I believe we're gonna eventually get to a place where all lives truly matter. But right now, we have this movement because time and time again, we've seen that Black lives don't matter to this country. So when Black lives matter truly, and that reflects that systemically, all lives will matter.
Negro history started back in 1926. Black History Month started in 1970. Some of the conversations that you and other organizers that we're having today are the same conversations our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, all of these generations prior have had. So what do your parents, your elderly relatives, your elder relatives, what do they say when they see you doing some of the same work that they were doing?
Yeah, so I have a lot of elders in my life that mentor me throughout this work. I've even talked to like older Black Panthers and people that worked with Assata Shakur and Malcolm X. Like, those are the type of people that I've had in my life. In terms of my family, I am the first activist in my family. So when I first started this workout, my family thought I was crazy. They thought it was just a phase, and like a lot of adults in my family tried to talk me out of it. But of course, me being Nupol, like once I'm committed to something, you can't really talk me out of it, especially if it's something that I really care about. So when I was like 17, my mom started to come around to the work I do. And now like she's super, super supportive. She recognized that, this is something that is my life's passion. And of course, from her perspective, she's worried about my safety because
that's what I was just going to ask you, especially being in Minneapolis.
Yes, like she's my mom and I'm her only daughter and I'm the oldest out of 6. So I have 5 younger brothers and it's just me. So I'm her firstborn, her only daughter. Like she was definitely worried from that aspect, but she's come around and, she just tells me to be safe and she calls me around the clock and she's always making care packages for me and stuff when I come back from the front lines. So yeah, like I definitely love and appreciate my mom. And my family is super supportive now of the work I do.
That's great. So you're at Hampton University. Why'd you choose an HBCU?
I'll go to the real HU, the illustrious Hampton University. I chose an HBCU because of the rich history that HBCUs have and like how much we have contributed, not just to US history, but world history. And HBCUs produce change makers, groundbreakers, and trailblazers. Some of the greatest Black minds have come out of HBCUs. And it makes me happy that people are starting to come to terms with how much HBCUs actually contribute to society and how valuable they are. But it also disappoints me that it took a Black woman ascending to one of the highest positions of power to recognize that fact, because we've been powerful before that, and Kamala is powerful in her own right, but it shouldn't take positions like that for people to recognize the importance of HBCUs. A lot of people said HBCUs don't prepare you for the real world. Well, here we go. Here, HBCU folks breaking barriers and really setting the standard. And Hampton University in particular, they really do instill a standard of excellence within you. They push you to be leaders. They push you to cultivate your leadership skills, your leadership style, and they really just it makes you a better person. Like I can definitely say that I've grown. I'm not the same person coming in. I don't understand how anybody could go to Hampton and come out the same. Like there's just no way. So many things that they do to make sure you are the best possible version of yourself when you get out, if you utilize the resources. Now, no college is perfect, but Hampton University is definitely my home by the sea, and it helped change my life. So I'm proud to be almost an alumna of Hampton University.
I didn't go to Hampton, but I went to an HBCU, and I will always love my HBCU.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely. I'm tired. I love y'all though.
Oh my God. So do you still want to be president in 2036?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely from a little kid, like I've always been like obsessed with politics, like the good and bad that comes along with it. My mom will literally always tells people the story about like when I was little, I was like 5 years old, and one of her best friends came in the house, and I was watching CNN, and her friend was like, "Why is your daughter watching CNN? She's like 5 years old. Do she even know what's going on?" And she tried to come and change the channel, and then I literally threw a fit. Like I was like, "No, keep it on." And I could understand some things that was going on, and like I used to read the daily newspapers about the politics, and I'll tell my mom about what's going on in the newspaper. Like I've just always been someone that's been politically engaged, even before I knew what it meant to be political or politically engaged. I've always been someone that was outspoken, very outspoken. And I used to growing up, like my mom don't believe in whoopings, but other people in my family do. So, yeah. Yeah, I definitely always had a big mouth, but now it's helping people and getting me places. So,
So it all worked out in the end.
Yes, exactly. See, so I definitely do want to get involved with politics even more on a electoral scale, and I can't wait to be done with school so I can really get involved in my future career.
Love it. All right. What's your message for people?
My message for people everywhere is just honestly, it's never really a wrong time to stand up for what's right. And you don't have to be a frontline organizer or someone that's always like speaking and stuff like that to be an activist. Like there's so many different ways you can contribute to this movement. If you cook, you can bring us some food because we get hungry out there. Like if you sing, you can sing at the protest because that keeps people motivated and energized. Like if you dance, you can dance. There's just so many different ways that you can contribute to this movement. And just because you're not on the front lines full time 24/7, that doesn't mean that your work is less valuable. Digital organizing has its space in the movement and it's valuable. Educators have their space in the movement, and that's absolutely valuable. Medical folks have their space in the movement, and we absolutely need them, especially what's going on with the maternal crisis and Black folks dying in hospitals, especially Black women at alarming rates. So there's so many different ways you can get involved in this movement and help effectuate change. As long as you're using discernment, you're cognizant around the others around you, you are open-minded, and you're willing to learn and listen, you'll be fine. And like, just contribute however you see fit and just be yourself and run your own race. So that's what I would say to people.
I think that is a great message and a perfect place to end this. Thank you so much for talking to me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications from radio.com. While you're at it, why don't you check out some of our other great videos.